Hello, welcome to my video blog. Today I'd like to chat with you about forced fasting. And a topic came up just recently in one of our support groups that people started to wonder if there's long-term bad effects to, well, being forced to fast. Which, in other words, you could say you're kind of being starved and you're wondering if you walk away with some kind of a metabolic issue. Let's just back up for a second and look at what this forced fasting means. There might be people out there who have no idea what we're talking about. Forced fasting is when your spiritual group decides that it's time for you to fast. And you don't get to consent. Your consent doesn't matter. Your consent is assumed. And any kind of rebellion against that would be considered, well, a fleshly, a sinful response, because if they say, well, this is the program and you're not getting with it, then obviously you are the problem. So it comes down to you and your attitude. So underlying to that whole thing is, on the outside, the belief that by you fasting, you can change something in the spiritual realm. We know that Jesus apparently said something like a certain demon could only be cast out with prayer and fasting. Or we know that Jesus fasted in the desert for 40 days and so forth. So fasting is a big topic in the entire Bible. And it's believed to have spiritual purposes and powers maybe, but that's obviously unseen and a little bit more difficult to grasp. But in these culture groups, that is the context where I'm speaking from and about, it is really that by your fasting, it's like a magical thing. When you fast, something magical will happen, unless you weren't really believing enough. So it's not just you fasting, it's also, you gotta pray and you can't nap or whatever. You have to be so super focused. So it ends up coming down to your performance. Behind the surface, what one can assume is that there's an ulterior motive that might not be vocalized, and that is, it comes down to control. People just want to control your behavior, want to see you suffer, and it's possible that is a reason why fasting is something that is being imposed on people in cultish groups. The way I have experienced it, I honestly believe that the people that have told me to fast for 3 days at a time, sometimes even during exam time, where I would also have to be physically quite active because I would have to walk to school, and that was usually 40 minutes by foot, and so it was challenging and then going to have an exam. But from my perspective, how I dealt with these forced fasts, I tried to make the best out of it. I believed that, okay, if they believe this is going to do something, I applied myself as good as I could. But honestly, I hate to fast. I hate to not have the power to eat when I want to, the freedom, if you will. I hate to not have the freedom to do what I need to, because obviously the body needs to eat. So this is it's a difficult issue where I don't just want to give a quick answer and say here it is, because there's multi-leveled layers to it. Let's look at the physical first, the physical effects of fasting. Someone was asking if forced fasting and only drinking fruit juices could have harmed their body long term. And I spoke with my sister, who's actually a doctor, a medical doctor in Germany. She said that she does not believe that there could be any kind of real physical damage that could be done in these shorter kinds of fasts. Obviously, if you are starving for a while, think of the kids in poor stricken countries. It'll take a while to get to a level where you're not malnourished anymore. And you know what? You can be eating every day and still be malnourished because what you're eating might just not be nutrient-dense food. So from that perspective, just not getting enough calories in for a while, there's not the idea that that's connected to harming your body long term. eating or consuming only carbohydrates during that time is obviously not a good idea. And even to that, she said in her professional opinion that that's something that you can shake off quickly if you're a healthy person. If you're not healthy, if you're diabetic or have any kind of like pregnant or other medical needs, obviously no one should be telling you you should be fasting without you checking back with your doctor, which again can be a very difficult zone in a cult, in a church, where they're believing beyond any physical needs there's a spiritual need that can only be met by your fasting. More cowbell. I have an itch, I need more cowbell. So it's kind of like that, I need more fasting, and then the miracle will happen. So that was the physical. It's likely that it didn't harm you at all. Actually, fasting right now is a super fad in health. In the health world, in the medical world, in the alternative medicine world. There's like the full-fledged fast for a day or for 48 hours, or intermittent fasting. I actually enjoy intermittent fasting, which is as easy as don't eat after dinner up until breakfast. And so if you're done eating dinner by 7 p.m. and you have your first bite in the morning or a sip of some caloric beverage like coffee with milk at 7, you just intermittently fasted, and that is associated with a lot of health benefits. It's supposed to help your metabolism kind of rejuvenate itself. Digestion can just slow down for a little bit. It's supposed to help you stay young longer and fight off diseases better. So fasting altogether, there's just absolutely no doubt that it is, in our world of plenty, a very healthy choice to make. Okay, so that is difficult to receive, especially when you feel like you've been violated by being told you can't eat for a while, because God needs you to not eat for a while. But that's not exactly, the concern obviously is real for that, but our bodies are able to deal with that, just because literally you're not starving, you're not eating for a while, but you're coming from a life of having eaten a lot and you're going back to a life where you will eat again. So that it's completely different from purposefully harming your body in any kind of form. Like, let's say if you drink a lot or you smoke a lot or drink pop, those kinds of things, those would be things that harm you potentially long term, where you want to create some kind of a lifestyle where you have a reversive effect to the bad choices you've made. But fasting is not one of them. Fasting is, for the body, a very healthy choice. But that leaves us with, what does it do to our soul, to our psyche, to our mental health? And obviously the truth is that these forced fasts have felt like being starved. They have felt like losing control. They have felt like this awful feeling that your perfect performance only will be able to aid God in doing what He wants to accomplish on this planet. And that's an awful lot of weight on a shoulder. And honestly, we're not built to carry the weight of the world on our shoulder, and we're not capable either. So I think the reality that what we need to face is that when we're being forced to fast, that is a violation. It's traumatic. It's abuse, because it's your body. Who can tell you what to do with your body but yourself, especially when it comes to a need? It's just like someone saying, well, don't breathe for a while, okay? I'm just gonna allow you, God needs you to breathe only once per minute now. Try to live like that when there's really logically no good reason to do it, but you're trying to wrap your mind around the fact that apparently this is necessary. At great cost. The cost is constant hunger. And if your attitude cannot develop to a place of, okay, I'm going to be okay with that, putting my body through this physical discipline and physical experience, if you can't come to a positive attitude about fasting, it will only be harmful to your soul. And here I want to add something. one thing that's very clear in science, and I, as a personal trainer, say that a lot to my people. If you can't do whatever exercise it is joyfully, then don't do it. Because if you can't say, I choose this, I'm choosing to put my body through this stress, then you're not going to reap positive effects from it. It will feel like distress, and distress is associated with bad hormones, sickness, anxiety causing hormones, versus when you do something in the realm of exercise, or honestly in anything, and you choose, your attitude is, I like this, I choose this, I want this is going to be good for me, I was born to handle this, to face this, it will, when you have that attitude, feel like stress, but positive stress that is associated with positive hormones leading to positive outcome. So all this put together, if your fast was forced and you faced it as the thing it was, an abuse that you were not consenting to, then your body wasn't literally harmed, but the trauma of it definitely caused negative hormones, and negative hormones are associated with disease-inducing effects. So it is more of a mental issue, if you will, an issue of the soul, than it is one of fixing the body. Now, how are we going to fix our soul from having been so controlled by someone else? I wish I had this quick little answer, this thing I did and then I was all better. It took me years to become okay with the things that happened in my cult. I can tell you what has helped me go in the right direction. I think recognizing that I have power, that I have responsibility, you know, that I am the steward of my life. Every little thing in my life, I am the steward over. And what has helped me is to assume that position, to no longer say, oh, that just happened to me, or why do these things always happen to me, or I don't know why I do that. I moved away from all of that and I made very conscious decisions. And I would say, this is my choice and I stand by it. And if it's a mistake, well, I might look like a fool, but it was my mistake. I think I've said something like that before, but this was really course changing, because as a very more passive person that I was for most of my life, just kind of going along with the flow, not trying to stir up anything, just wanting to be accepted, that made a big difference to say, yeah, I have a different idea and I want to do that. And that's what I've been doing, and it has brought me here, and has brought me a level of control, I want to say, over my life, where I can now clearly say, okay, here's what I want. Now, God, what do you want? Back in the day in my cult, I didn't know what I want anymore. I was supposed to lay down and die to myself every day with every little thing. I didn't know what myself was anymore. I was so confused about what I want that it became impossible, because all my freedoms, all my power I had given away, and so there wasn't really much left of me anymore. So to claim that back and say, I want to be myself, and then submit that self freely to God, who will lead me by speaking to me through my conscience, speaking to me through maybe like a gut sense, or maybe a dream, or maybe a Bible verse, or maybe a friend. But I always have the freedom to say, I think that was God, or I don't think that was God, or, you know, my best guess was that's what we want, but I don't have to be afraid of making a mistake. That is kind of the best thing that has happened to me, but it's not something I just woke up one day and realized, and I had to walk it out, and I had to walk it out, or I should say I got to walk that out with safe friends, safe people around me. that were full of grace and that would help me discern and help me be okay being myself. It's good to have cheerleaders in your life. So all that, health and wellness and freedom, are topics that are very near and dear to my heart because they have made all the difference in the quality of my life. I would like to invite you to something, and I know I'm kind of going out on a limb here. I'd like to start an online living wellness growth group, and it will start January 27th in 2019, and it will cost $80 to participate. It's going to be 8 weeks. We're meeting for 8 sessions, 1.5 hours at a time. And you just have to order the Living Wellness book, which is like $30 on either Amazon or the website. I have the link all online. I also wrote a blog about this. If you need it all in writing, you can read it. It'd be awesome if this was going to be something that people would like to participate. I'd love to be your cheerleader when it comes to your health and wellness journey, and we've created some helpful material that has helped already a lot of people here in the area. We've had all sorts of groups that I got to facilitate and others. So we're very passionate about what we're seeing when people begin to invite God into their health and wellness journey, and then pair that with education and a group atmosphere of support and motivation and accountability, as much as I think that's kind of a two-edged sword. But I guess it is good to know that it's helpful if you're accountable, and that can help you on your path. Yeah, so with all that, I hope you got something out of this, and I also hope that people really stop forcing people to fast. I don't think it's a magical thing that if you do that you'll get the result. I think fasting is incredibly intimate. It is something between God and a person, and it might not even be food what you need to fast. You know what you should fast in order to see some kind of a breakthrough. You know, the kinds of breakthroughs that I have seen when I actually have fasted, and usually it wasn't food, it's something more like TV or alcohol, or fasted candy for a while. It was something in me that changed. I didn't see the world around me change, I saw myself change in that relationship with God, because sometimes these things that we like so much, they speak so much louder that we can't really hear God through it, or we're missing out on something. And then if we choose to trust and say, yep, I'd like to know what happens if I give this up for a while, and give God permission to speak to us, especially when we crave that thing, whatever it may be. Yeah, who knows what can happen, but I'm not going to say to you that that's something magical you need to do. That is something that grows out of love, and I think it's incredibly personal. Those were my 2 cents on fasting, and I hope to speak to you again soon.